The Zombies mode has been an iconic addition to the Call of Duty game since its introduction in World at War. During this time, the mode has had its ups and downs as new attempts to shake up the gameplay were introduced. But none of those attempts were as game-altering as Modern Warfare 3's iteration. This year, packed with your 5-hour campaign and half-baked multiplayer, you get to deploy into Urzikstan to fight off hordes of undead as you complete contracts in order to gain currency that can be used to buy perks, pack a punch, and equipment, allowing you to take on harder threats and push deeper into the map. With about 50 hours in this mode as well as 18 subscribers, I figured I'd be the perfect person to tell you if the Zombies experience is worth its $70 price point. I'm going to start by talking about the stuff that this new mode gets right. Frankly, because I want to give it its dues, and honestly there is some good stuff here. First off, the game feels good to play, which is extremely important. The gunplay is really smooth, and the sound and art direction are the best parts of the game. The zombies look mangled, and the mini-bosses in the game are all unique and pose different threats. Some of the bosses are genuinely scary and pose a real threat to your run. Enemies like the Mega Abomination require real planning and are super fun to build up a squad and come up with new strategies to take them down. Zombies from big to small all sound haunting, and the new theme is one of the best of the series. The next thing I want to give the game praise for is the difficulty. While the early zones are so easy a child could survive, areas like Tier 3 and even certain contracts are very difficult if you are playing solo, which I was for most of the time. I always had to make sure I had at least 2 self-revives on me, as it was almost a given to go down at least once when attempting a big bounty contract or taking on armed AI at the fortress. The difficulty can also be ramped up during late-stage exfil sequences. Or at least it could. You see, while I was making this video, a patch went out reducing the number of zombies that spawn exfil zones, making it go from close to 100 undead to just a handful of weak zombies that pose no danger whatsoever. If you get caught by surprise though, and happen to go down, no need to worry, as there are 24 players in every match which can lend you a hand regardless of them being in your squad or not. Once revived, you can even join these players' squads or invite them to your own, as each squad can have 6 players. Be careful though, because these players can be a bit debaucherous at times.
Oh yeah, you love my zombie balls in your face.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
If you find yourself in need of even more allies though, a zombie killed with explosives will occasionally drop chunks of flesh. These items can be deposited into any doghouse found around the map. What will come out is a friendly hellhound that will attack zombies and even revive you if you happen to go down. These dogs can be extremely useful, especially for solo players, and were often the first thing I tried to do when deploying into a new run. For those wondering, you can pet the dog as well, and even get a special trophy for it. What would a zombies mode be without wonder weapons though? Well, this zombies mode does include them, yet many of them are sorely missed. In this mode, there are 3 returning wonder weapons in the ray gun, Wonderwaff, and the VR-11. The new wonder weapon though might be my favorite, and that is the Scorcher. When charged, the Scorcher shoots out rays of light, decimating zombies in its path, and its secondary fire takes a page out of the rocket ramp from Fortnite and propels you into the air for quick escapes from big threat, or allows for quick travel to get to an ally that may need your help. If you have played DMZ, then you'll be familiar with the gameplay loop. Your main focus is to complete contracts in order to gain essence, which can be used to buy perks, as well as upgrades for your weapons. This allows you to become stronger as you play, which lets you take on tougher enemies and harder contracts. However, essence isn't the only thing you get for completing contracts. Upon completing a contract, a reward rift will appear, and these rift schematics can sometimes be found. These schematics allow you to craft perks, ammo mods, and Ethereum crystals, which can be brought in your next round, giving you a bit of a head start. Moving on to the real meat of this video, and that's what I don't like about the mode. I believe that 2 of the pros are also cons, the first being the wonder weapons. While the weapons are fun to use and extremely powerful, you only get them for 1 round, making them not worth picking up because often you'll be sacrificing a church weapon or a contraband weapon that can be used on multiple playthroughs. Because of this, I've had matches where I find the ray gun, Wonderwaff, or the Scorcher, but I choose not to pick it up because I know I'll just be losing it when I exfil. You can find schematics for these weapons in the Tier 3 zones, but these schematics have a 48-hour cooldown, which means you won't be able to use these weapons very often. The second problem is zombie density. While exfil hordes can be huge and scary, more often than not you aren't going to be in tense, high-octane situations, especially when traversing the map, which is too big for its own good. As mentioned before, much like DMZ, the way to progress in this mode is by doing contracts. But unlike DMZ, where contracts are everywhere, in this mode the contracts are few and far between, so you'll be driving around a lot just trying to find stuff to do. And if you do happen to find a contract, watch out, because other players on the map can get there first and take it from you. I had this happen to me many times where I was on my way to a contract only for another team to beat me to it and take it. Because of this, I would have to play a game of Where's Waldo in the cumbersome map just to find out where to go next. Combine this with the randomness of spawns means each time you load into the game, the Pack-a-Punch machine, contracts, and perks will be in different spots, so you have to go to your map in order to find out what to do and where to go. This makes you vulnerable to zombies though, so you better find what you're looking for fast or you'll be in trouble. When you do find what you're looking for, you can ping it on your map so it's easy to find in-game. At least that's how it's supposed to work. I've had many times where the ping system just doesn't work for me at all, especially with exfil zones. There have been so many times I'm trying to ping an exfil zone, either just doesn't ping anything or ping something completely different. Here in this clip I'm trying to ping this zone, but instead it pings a car right in front of me. When the pings do work, it's only for a limited amount of time. On multiple occasions I would be driving to my ping when it would just disappear, making me go back to the map to re-ping it, leaving me open to an attack. All of this combines to make the traversal and finding things to do feel sluggish and unintuitive. Having to constantly find everything on a big map and use a ping system that barely works means you'll be fighting the game more than actually playing it. When you are able to find something to do, now you have to worry about the servers. With this being an always online game mode, you need to have a stable connection on your end, but also have faith that Activision servers aren't going to have issues. Which in my experience, issues are all they have. I've had multiple disconnects and server crashes that boot me out while in the middle of the game. These disconnects also count as deaths, so say goodbye to any gear you had spent the last couple of hours grinding for, as well as XP tokens you had been using. This makes me not want to play the game, even though it is kind of fun, because I never know if I'm actually going to be able to make any progress. When you do get to play, the game itself is extremely buggy, with random glitches spread through everything in the game.
Oh no!
As for the AI, it's pretty atrocious for both the zombies and mercenaries. I've had multiple times where the zombies are just walking around me like they can't see me at all and don't attack, and mercenaries will sometimes just spawn right in front of me, and because they do so much damage, I've almost had a couple runs ruined this way. I recently had a deployment that I fully stacked up for using all my best schematics, only to realize once I loaded in that my game looked like a PowerPoint presentation. Not wanting to play a game at 1 frame a second, I quickly exfilled, but now all the schematics I use are on cooldown, which means I have to wait 3 days until I can use the crystals that gives me Pack-a-Punch 3. The cooldown system paired with the instability of the game makes me not want to take anything of value into a run, making me have to fight zombies, mercenaries, and Activision themselves just to play the game. I think the biggest problem with the mode right now is just how bad the pacing is and how unsatisfying the game is. Because you don't get to carry over perks, packed weapons, or wonder weapons to other matches, you have to basically start every match from scratch, which is fine for normal round-based zombies, but in this mode it's difficult to do everything in one deployment, so you may spend 1 or 2 hours just gathering cans and crystals to give yourself a head start on your third deployment, but unless you have every schematic unlocked, you will still need to buy some perks and pack your gun a couple more times. So you have to grind contracts, and by the time you're ready to go to the higher tier content, the match is almost over and you don't really have enough time to do everything that you wanted to do. Because of this, you can really only focus on 1 or 2 things for each deployment, which limits the player and disrupts the flow of the game, making it feel unsatisfying to play. To finish up the bad things about this game, I want to talk about how easy it can be at times. I think this is partly because of the map. You see, the map you play on is not a map built for zombies. You're actually just playing on a Warzone map with zombies shoved into it. Because of this, you have highways and giant buildings, which means that if you're ever in a pickle, you can either go up or down to get away. Jumping off an overpass is a tactic I've used many times to stay alive, and climbing onto the top of the nearest building is the easiest way to turn the game to baby mode. For some reason, the zombies' pathing only allows them a couple spots where they can get up, so if you just climb a ladder, every zombie will go back to their preschool days where they have to form a single file line and take turns jumping up, essentially becoming clay pigeons that are super easy to shoot out of the sky. Combine this with the tiered zones, which eliminate natural progression, means the game doesn't really get any harder the longer you play. If you want to stay in Tier 1 and have your cat play for you, that's completely valid and you probably won't go down. I think Tier 2 is where most people will spend their time as it feels the most balanced, and I've had some pretty hectic moments during my play sessions. Even though the game is riddled with things that bring it down, I do think there are good bones here, and I think a couple of changes could make the game much better. I'm going to talk about some small changes that would instantly improve the game before moving into some bigger changes that are not likely to happen, but are just ways I would improve the game. The first change I would make has to deal with the timer. In the game you have 2 separate timers, the first being 45 minutes, and the second being 15 minutes. This means you have an hour of play in total, And with how the game is set up right now, players just don't have nearly enough time to gear up and get into the higher tier zones where most of the fun is. I think this timer should be doubled, giving the player 2 hours in total. Next, I would like to see single perk machines removed and replaced with machines that you can buy any perk from. These machines already exist in the game, yet are only available in the tier 3 zones. Having these machines everywhere would make it so that you don't have to run around like a chicken with its head cut off to find everything. Once you find one machine, you can buy every perk granted you have enough essence. Lastly, for small changes, with the map as clunky as it is, I would love to see a rework of the ping system. I had the idea of incorporating it into the ping wheel, which already exists. You could easily pull it up and the wheel would have a ping nearest section. Hovering over what you want could have the game ping the nearest of that thing for you. Want to find the nearest perk machine? You don't have to play Where's Waldo on the map anymore. Just pull up the wheel and the game does it for you. Decreasing the amount of time players would have to spend on the map would drastically help the game, especially for solo players who don't have a teammate to cover them while they're trying to find stuff. Now moving on to some massive changes I would love to see, but will probably never happen. Firstly, I think insured weapon slots as well as contraband should not be in the game. I believe that you should start every game with only a basic pistol. This would make searching every house for weapons much more important, and items like wall bites and the mystery box become a whole lot more useful. Pairing this with the second change I want made, which is keeping everything when you exfil, would add a sense of progression to every match. Your first match just may be a quick in and out to get a better weapon. On your second entry you may knock out a couple of contracts and get some perks. On your third, you may hit a few more contracts and pack a punch your weapon, but every time you go in, you bring something new out. You slowly get stronger and stronger, so each time you can delve a little deeper. Right now, because you lose your perks, pack-a-punch, and weapon rarity, none of my runs felt like I really accomplished anything, making the game feel monotonous and grindy to me. This would change that, and I think encourage and help players experience higher tier content before they wouldn't be able to just because of how the game works. Lastly, and I know this one's kinda crazy, but I think PvP should be added. I don't think it should be everywhere, but right now the final zone isn't really scary. So it'd be cool if the gas could affect your brain, making you hyper-aggressive, and while you are in the gas, PvP is turned on. This would add a completely new element to the game and would feel like the Dark Zones from the Tom Clancy Division games. This would make the final exfil extremely tense and encourage players to stay out of the radiation zone. Even with all these problems and things that I would change, I've talked to people who say this is their favorite zombies game, which I do not want to take from them at all. But I do want to say that if you have seen people playing it and think it's right up your alley, I still cannot recommend it because the game mode clearly has a shelf life. The game itself lacks replayability because of how tedious and repetitive it is, and just look at how these past couple years have gone for similar modes. DMZ just got its last update only after 1 year, Warzone 1 isn't even playable anymore, and next year we'll be returning to round-based zombies and most of the player base will move on with it. I fully expect the devs to do the same shortly after as well. While this game is fun now, I do not see it being something that Call of Duty and Activision continue to support past this year. All of this goes to show that Activision's incorporation of a Warzone map, as well as weapon-toting mercenaries into a brand new zombies experience, is indicative of just how lazy they have become. The grindy and cash-grabbing nature of this game is such a far departure from what made past zombies modes great. Memorable maps like Mob of the Dead, Zombies in Spaceland, and Origins offer so much to the player, and the inclusion of the operator system in this new experience gives us Nicki Minaj fighting zombies instead of great, memorable characters that we can connect with. Characters like Dempsey, Richtofen, Nikolai, and Takio are nowhere to be found. This sad attempt at a zombies mode goes to show that just like the zombies I'm fighting, Call of Duty has no brains. Finishing up the video, I just want to say thank you to everyone who sat through it. This is the first video that I've ever worked on, wrote the script for, edited, did everything myself. So it was a really cool experience and I really liked it, but I know it's not the best video out there. I just want to kind of put this one out and learn as I go. But if you guys do have any tips from me, please leave them down in the comment below and like this video if you did. Again, thank you for watching and I hope you guys have a good one.